They say marriages don't break apart in a single day. It happens slowly, like a thread unraveling one tug at a time. For years, I believed I was in a safe, steady marriage. My husband and I had built a life together, dinners at the table, lazy Sunday mornings, small arguments followed by laughter, and a rhythm that felt secure. But I would soon learn that comfort can blind you, and trust can be a dangerous illusion. It started with a sound. Just a sound. One night, long after midnight, I was drifting between sleep and wakefulness when I heard it. The faint, sharp buzz of my husband's phone on the nightstand. At first, it didn't alarm me. He often had colleagues messaging him at odd hours, and he had always been the responsible type who never turned his phone off. But this time was different. I remember the way he jumped at the sound, as though his entire body tensed. He grabbed the phone quickly, angling it away from me as if shielding it from my eyes. The soft glow of the screen lit his face, and in that half-second, I caught something I'd never seen before: nervousness. His jaw clenched, his lips parted as if he was about to explain something. But then he simply turned his back to me, typing furiously in silence. I wanted to ask, "Who was that?" But the words froze in my throat. I didn't want to sound paranoid. I didn't want to start a fight over nothing. So instead, I pretended to sleep. I lay there quietly, staring at the ceiling, while my mind whispered questions I wasn't ready to hear the answers to. But the pattern continued. Night after night. The buzzing became more frequent. Always after midnight. Always when he thought I was too tired to notice. Sometimes he would even take the phone into the bathroom, staying there for 20, 30 minutes, emerging with that same unreadable expression. When I asked casually, "Everything okay?" he would smile, too quickly, too softly, and say, "Yeah, just work stuff." But something in my gut told me it wasn't work. Then came the night that changed everything. He had fallen asleep with the phone still in his hand, resting loosely on his chest. My heart pounded as I reached over, not to unlock it, but just to glance. And in that fleeting moment before the screen dimmed, I saw it. A name. A woman's name. Not a coworker, not a family friend, not anyone I knew. My chest tightened. Who was she? Why was she texting him so late? That single glimpse opened a floodgate of doubt. Suddenly, every excuse he gave, every late meeting, every distracted look across the dinner table replayed in my head like a puzzle I had never put together. My world tilted, and for the first time in years, I realized I didn't know my husband as well as I thought I did. The days that followed were torture. My mind became my own enemy. At work, I stared blankly at my computer screen, unable to focus, wondering if he was texting her. At home, every ping of his phone sent chills down my spine. I became hyper-aware of everything. The way he smiled at his phone, the way he angled the screen away, the way he suddenly started taking longer drives after work. I was trapped between two fears. The fear of being wrong, of destroying my marriage over nothing. And the fear of being right, of facing the truth that my husband, the man I had built my life with, was living a double life behind my back. I didn't tell anyone. Not my friends, not my family. I carried the weight of suspicion alone, swallowing my questions night after night, forcing a smile during the day while my heart quietly cracked beneath the surface. But deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The buzzing in the night wasn't just a sound anymore. It was a warning, a crack in the wall of my marriage that I could no longer ignore. And little did I know, following that sound would lead me straight into the darkest truth I had ever faced. The human heart has an instinct, a quiet alarm that rings even when the mind tries to silence it. Mine had been ringing for weeks, a steady hum of unease that followed me everywhere. I could no longer laugh at his jokes without wondering who else he was sharing them with. I could no longer enjoy dinners without imagining who else might be stealing his attention when his phone lit up. But suspicion is not proof. And proof requires courage. I'll never forget the night I finally gave in to that courage. It was late, the house cloaked in silence except for the steady tick of the wall clock. My husband had gone to bed early, claiming exhaustion. I stayed in the living room, pretending to finish work, but really I was just waiting for that familiar sound. And then it came. Buzz. Buzz. The phone on the nightstand lit up, and for the first time, instead of looking away, I walked toward it. My hands trembled as if I were about to step off a cliff. He was fast asleep, his steady breathing filling the room. With a pounding heart, I picked up his phone. I wasn't sure what I expected to see. Maybe just harmless messages that would make me feel foolish. But what I found instead shattered the fragile hope I'd been holding on to. There it was. A string of late-night messages. Her name at the top. And beneath it, words that turned my stomach. I miss you already. Last night felt like a dream. When can I see you again? The room seemed to spin. My knees weakened, and I sat at the edge of the bed, phone in hand, staring at the screen as if the words might rearrange themselves into something less damning. But they didn't. Each message was a dagger, carving away at the life I thought I had. My first instinct was anger. A fiery, breathless rage that made my hands tighten around the phone. But then, just as quickly, came the heartbreak. Hot tears blurred my vision as the reality sank in. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't innocent. My husband, the man I trusted, the man I built my life with, was giving his heart to someone else. I scrolled further, desperate, almost masochistic, as if seeing more would somehow numb the pain. But it only grew worse. Photos. Inside jokes. Plans to meet again. Words of affection that once belonged to me, now casually handed to her. I put the phone down, my body trembling. He stirred slightly beside me, and in that moment, I felt like I was lying next to a stranger. The man I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone capable of lying with such ease, of smiling at me in the daylight while sneaking off in the dark. For days, I carried the knowledge like a hidden wound. I still cooked his favorite meals, still asked about his day, still played the role of the loving wife, but inside, I was screaming. Every time he touched my hand, I wanted to pull away. Every time he said, "I love you," I wondered if he had said those words to her too. The worst part wasn't just the betrayal itself. It was the performance. The way he continued to laugh, to plan vacations, to talk about our future, as if nothing was wrong. As if he hadn't torn our vows apart with every secret text he sent. I became an actress in my own home, masking the storm that raged inside me. But behind the mask, I was already planning. Quietly, carefully, I began to watch him more closely. His excuses, his late returns, his sudden showers after working late. Every detail became a clue in a puzzle I was determined to solve. Because if he thought I would sit quietly, if he thought his secret affair would remain hidden in the shadows, he was gravely mistaken. The texts had opened the door. And now, I was ready to walk through it, to uncover everything, no matter how much it hurt. And when I finally pieced the truth together, when I discovered the full extent of his lies, my response would leave him speechless. Betrayal changes a person. It doesn't happen all at once, but piece by piece, the heart hardens, the trust dissolves, and a new version of yourself rises from the ashes of what was lost. That was me. I was no longer the naive wife who believed every late-night work call or every hurried smile. I was someone who had stared directly into the lie, and survived. But survival wasn't enough. I needed justice. I needed him to feel what I felt. I didn't confront him immediately. That would have been too easy, too predictable. Instead, I chose patience, the kind of patience that cuts deeper than any outburst ever could. For weeks, I quietly gathered every piece of evidence. Screenshots of his late-night texts, bank statements showing unusual expenses, small notes about the times he claimed to be working late but wasn't. Piece by piece, I built a case that would be impossible to deny. During that time, I played my role perfectly. I still smiled, still cooked dinner, still kissed him goodnight, all while knowing exactly what he was doing behind my back. My silence became my weapon, and every day that passed, I watched him dig himself deeper into his own lies. But I wasn't only planning for him. I was planning for me. One afternoon, while he was at work, I sat down with a lawyer. The truth was brutal, but the law was on my side. I didn't just want to leave him, I wanted to leave him with nothing. No home, no comfort, no carefully constructed double life. If he wanted a fresh start with her, then he would do it stripped of the security I had once provided. And then came the day my patience ended. It was a Sunday, bright and ordinary, the kind of day where he least expected a storm. I set the dining table beautifully. Candles, his favorite meal, even a bottle of wine we had been saving. He came home smiling, casual, almost smug. Little did he know, this wasn't dinner. This was his reckoning. We ate in silence, my heart pounding in my chest. I let him talk about his day, about meaningless things, until finally, I placed a thick folder on the table. He frowned, confused, reaching for it. Inside were the printouts, the messages, the receipts, every carefully documented lie. I will never forget the look on his face. The way his color drained, his lips parted, his hands trembled as he flipped through the pages. He tried to speak, to deny, to explain, but every word died on his tongue as the evidence stared back at him. And then, before he could recover, I placed the final document on the table, the divorce papers. This, I said softly but firmly, is what your late-night texts have given us. Silence. A silence heavier than any shouting match could have been. For once, he had no power. No excuses. No lies strong enough to cover the truth. The next days blurred together. He begged, he pleaded, he promised change, but his words meant nothing to me anymore. The man I had loved was gone, replaced by someone I could no longer recognize. And so, I walked away. It wasn't easy. It wasn't painless. There were nights I cried, mornings I felt hollow, moments I questioned if I had made the right choice. But with each passing day, I grew stronger, freer. The weight of his betrayal no longer chained me. It propelled me into a new life, one where my happiness wasn't dependent on someone else's loyalty. And here's the thing about revenge. Sometimes, it's not about destroying the other person. Sometimes, the greatest revenge is rebuilding yourself so completely that they no longer have any hold over you. That was my story. My husband's late-night texts revealed a secret affair, but in the end, it revealed something even more powerful, the strength I never knew I had. And though he may never admit it, I know the truth haunts him. Because while he lost me, I found myself.